These days, I've found it harder and harder to get into team-based online multiplayer games, and for the longest time, I couldn't point my finger at an exact reason as to why. But I've thought about it, and I've got at least one major thing to point to. The current usage of the word meta comes from the word metagaming, adapted and used by the creator of Magic the Gathering, Richard Garfield, to describe the interaction between players and elements of the game outside of the actual game itself. The usage of the word meta itself, I think, has evolved since its original conception. And by that I mean most people are not actually participating in the discussion of the development of tactics and strategies. They're not participating in metagaming. People often refer to a meta or the meta. They kind of treat it as this like intrinsic part of development of an online game that sort of ebbs and flows as time goes on, and most importantly, as a gospel that should always be rigidly followed by everyone. The reason I take umbrage with this is because the meta of a game typically gets developed with an increased focus on turning the game into a professional competitive environment, both from players and the developers of a game responding to it through balancing. But that's just the thing. As more meta development is done by the most active and skilled players of any given game, more distance is created between professional players and casual players and their ability to keep up with the meta. You've almost certainly experienced this before. Take Smash Melee, for instance. Melee's meta is so infamous that pretty much anyone familiar with competitive gaming will be able to point to no items Fox-only Final Destination. This rule set is actually a pretty overblown idea of how competitive Melee is actually played.
I really think they think we don't play on other stages other than FD.
All the stages.
But I think to some extent it does capture the essence of the stringent rules that they actually do play with. And Fox was and still is considered to be the character with the strongest matchups out of all of the characters in Melee's roster. So much so that one of early Melee's more prominent players, Hacks, joked that in the year 20XX, Fox players will have spent so much time developing and optimizing Fox that everyone will be playing at task levels of Fox play, and that the only way tournaments will be won would be by playing rock, paper, scissors for port priority. But if you were to pick up Fox right now, with no Melee experience whatsoever, and you hopped online, you would absolutely struggle against even the lowest tier characters. Because even though Fox is meta, you don't have the perspective of someone who's been playing and winning a game as their literal actual job. The strength of a character like Fox mostly comes from the ability to utilize all of his abilities to their highest level and knowing when to use them.
Now, all of this isn't to say that Fox isn't a strong character. He is. It's just that you don't know why. I know why. And you might think you might know why, and you might say it's because Fox's shine comes out frame 1, which is true. But real fans know that Fox is so powerful because Falco is trying to double laser from ledge, and it's unsafe.
Not safe.
There is such a strict adherence to metas by so many people who can only hope to begin to understand the nuances of why a particular meta is good. And yet, a deviance from a meta strategy often ends up in people being immediately torn to shreds by their teammates. Take League, for example, an extremely notably toxic community for the most part.
It's over! You die topside! My fucking Nasus walks bot side with no TP!
I genuinely think that the problem here is that a big portion of people who still play and get upset at League of Legends to this day are only doing so because they believe deep down that the amount of time that they've sunk into a game must have fostered a level of skill that could, if they just tried a little harder, make them a pro player. But this just isn't true. Your 6,000 hours on League of Legends normals with your 1.1 win-loss ratio that you spent half of mostly focusing on goofing off with friends in a voice call is so astronomically unlikely to manifest as anything even close to resembling the level of time and focus required to even reach being considered for pro play. And don't get it twisted here, there's nothing wrong with that. Some of the most fun I've had in League, or any online multiplayer game, were with friends right when they launched, times when nobody had any idea of the strength of abilities or items and it was wildly unbalanced. Bro, you used to be able to go 6 Winston. And competitive. Those games weren't stressful, they were fun. There was no precedent for competition outside of the very nature of the game itself. But as soon as everyone playing those games started treating them like their damn jobs and getting upset at anybody and everybody for having an off day, it just started to become a chore. So let's play a new game then. Deadlock is a 6v6 MOBA hero shooter developed by Valve, and you probably already know about it by now, so I'm not going to bore you with the details. But lucky for me, it is in its infancy right now, which means that it is only ever gonna be this fun. And because of that, I have decided that I'm going to make it my mission to make as many stupid, awful, useless fun builds that I can for as long as I can, at least until my lash starts telling me to perform Harakiri for missing a CS and then going 09.